He's definitely a dying man politically. There's a big civil war brewing inside Labour here. The Rayners of this world now just starting to make little moves. She wants Reeves gone because she knows if she can topple Reeves, Starmer will have to go just after.
Eastern European young male prostitutes.
Yeah, whatever they are.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Nick Talks. This episode's amazing guest and returning guest is that Preston journalist. Ash, how you doing?
Really good, thanks, Nick. How are you?
I'm good. Got a bit of a tan, as we just had a chat about. And I can't believe the second I got back, the weather here went. I should have stayed here the week, then went away for a week. That would have been easier and better for my suntan. But things have kicked off since I've been away. Keir Starmer, I would say today is the weakest he's ever been. He looks very vulnerable at the moment. He sort of did a U-turn yesterday on the winter fuel allowance, which he should have done months ago. The election might not have been as bad for him then. And then today in the paper, there's talk about him going back on keeping the two-child limit in the benefit system. What's going on? Is he a dying man? Can he survive? Have his cabinet getting behind him? Have all the Labour supporters all getting behind him because he's the best thing ever for the Labour Party? What's going on?
He's definitely a dying man politically. I'm not saying he's going to go in the next couple of weeks or anything like that, the next couple of months. He's probably not. But he's certainly, you're right, at his weakest he's been since he came to power. He didn't have a strong mandate anyway, did he? His mandate was paper thin. And the problem with he's never shown any contrition, about that. Just to say to people, right, I realise that only 1 in 5 of you voted for me, but I'm going to show you that we're going to do a good job for you. Something like that, like Boris did in 2019 when he said that I realise a lot of these votes have been lent to us. We're going to do our best for you. All right, it turned out to be rubbish, but he said it. Show a bit of humility. And they've done none of that. They're just taking people for granted now and they're doing whatever they want and steamrolling over what people believe. This two-child benefit cap would cost a lot of money. I don't think they can afford to do it. Given the borrowing figures we're seeing now, I think it's absolutely impossible. Public sector debt is now at over 95% of GDP, the highest it's been since the 1960s. They borrowed £17 billion in March alone, which was 4 billion, I think, more than what was predicted. And we've just found out that they borrowed over 20 billion in April. So borrowing isn't going down, spending isn't going down, everything is going up. And of course, because of inflation now we're seeing rising again, the cost of government borrowing is going up and the gilts are already super high. And this is why we're seeing the Rayners of this world now just starting to make little moves, just starting to do little things. Like we saw that leak to the Telegraph the other day, the story where Rayner demanded in a secret memo that she wanted savers to be taxed, people who've actually done the right thing and put some money aside to look after themselves, to be taxed on their ISAs and things like that, instead of cutting back public services. When of course you've already paid income tax and stuff on that money. But I've got a different theory about that. I believe it was actually the Treasury that leaked that against Rayner. I don't think it was Rayner who leaked it. And that's because Rayner's going after Rachel Reeves now. She wants Reeves gone because she knows if she can topple Reeves, Starmer will have to go just after. And then she won't have to go through the indignity of a big leadership contest or a big fight against Starmer, airing your dirty linen in public, if you will. She can take Reeves down. But the Treasury staff are now briefing against Rayner, because it's Rachel Reeves and the Treasury that are getting all the stick for this plan to tax savers. And even I thought it was Reeves. It sounds like something stupid that she'd do. But no, now they're sick of getting the bad press for it. They're actually going after Rayner. There's a big civil war brewing inside Labour here. Starmer's approvals are rock bottom, minus 50 odd. The polling in all the polls now have Reform at least 5 points ahead. Things couldn't be going much worse for him.
It might not be going much worse for him, but what I predict is he'll do what every dying Labour politician does, and many Tory ones as well, and that's open the checkbook, opening it more than it's already open. Like you said, we're spending more than we've ever spent. We're in more debt than we've ever been. But to save his skin and to save his government and to save his job, to save his reputation, he will start spending more money because that will please his backbenchers. It will please many of his voters in the short term until the crash comes, until we've got to pay it all back. That's my big fear is he'll go on a spending spree now because it's the only thing he can do.
I don't see how he can spend. I honestly don't see how he can spend. Things are going so bad financially for this country. As I just said, we're borrowing so much money. We're in more debt than we've ever been since the 60s. And was it not the 60s when we got the IMF bailout? Or so, it was somewhere around there.
That was the 70s. Yeah.
That 70s.
But don't forget, in the 60s, we probably were still paying off the Second World War.
Well, we were paying that off till 2010, wasn't it? I think we were still paying the Second World War off. Yeah, so much for the special relationship. But yeah, so we don't have any money to spend. The borrowing record amounts, we're actually borrowing to pay the interest on our existing debts. Today they've announced, which, all right, it's done by an independent pay body, but nevertheless, they're going to go along with it. Another 6% for junior doctors, 4% for consultants, 4% for teachers, 4.5% for the armed forces, 4% for prison officers, 3.75% for civil servants, 3.6% for nurses and other NHS staff. Within minutes of those so-called pay rise, well, they are of those pay rises being announced, the junior doctors, the teachers, the civil servants unions all said they're balloting for strike action straight away. That's the state we're in. Because they capitulated last year as soon as they came in, giving out, £14 billion worth of pay rises, 22.5% to doctors and all that stuff. So of course they're going to come back for more. These people can't negotiate. Not one person, let's not forget, has ever worked in business or run their own business in that Labour government. They have no idea how to negotiate in a business setting. And that's why they've negotiated deals with the EU, where, the French are saying we couldn't have hoped for any better than this. The fishermen are overjoyed. You've got the Indians who are saying it's the best trade deal we've ever done. When the other side are saying that, you've made a massive mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go back to those pay rises. I think one of the reasons why they've rejected those pay rises is because of what's happened to Starmer over the last few days. The U-turn after U-turn after U-turn. They know he's the weakest ever been, and they've got a funny feeling that if we can put a bit more pressure on him, he'll get rid of us by just paying us off. It's one problem he can get rid of. We'll just give him a little bit more money, but again, that all adds up and it adds up and it adds up. And if he's still in position when it comes to October, we know we're looking at more tax rises, don't we? And I'm not talking about a little tax rises. I think we're going to be looking at more, like last time, a raft of huge tax rises that hit everybody at different levels and different fields in the country.
Of course we are. We've got millionaires and billionaires that create these jobs, create companies, etc., employ people, leaving at the rate of one every 45 minutes. So the amount of people off these latest immigration figures, the amount of people leaving Britain has jumped up 11%. So far from people coming in here actually contributing, creating jobs, creating businesses that then pay tax anyway, they're actually leaving in record numbers. So you've got even less tax take now coming in to the Treasury. They're having to borrow money because they're funding all these pay rises they can't afford. The private sector has been taxed to such an extent where companies aren't even hiring people now. So you're lucky if you've even got a job. And many companies are simply folding and saying, well, we can't survive anymore. And they're closing the doors anyway. I'll give you a really good example. The hair and beauty industry. I'm not going to name anyone specifically, obviously, but a lot of these people now are shutting up shop. They're simply giving up on having their own salons in the high streets and stuff like that. And all they're doing is packing all their stuff into a car and driving around with the stuff and doing it at people's houses or doing it from their own homes. And you can do it cash in hand. But then of course, you're not employing any staff in your salons. These premises then sit empty, or some dodgy money laundering vape shop opens or Turkish barber opens along your high street instead. And that's what's happening here. Businesses are just closing left, right, and centre, and people are resorting. People who did employ other people, of course, and then paid national insurance and all that stuff, are resorting to working cash in hand, not because they want to break the law, not because they want to dodge tax. They've paid tax for years. And where's it got them? They're getting strangled by these people, so they're giving up and they're going cash in hand. And to be honest with you, whether it's illegal or not, I don't blame them.
And the reason why many of them are going catching hands is for the reasons you've said, but also because we have other people doing it. We have many immigrants in this country working cash in hands, undercutting, ignoring health and safety rules, ignoring all the red tape. So therefore, they can charge a lot less for their service. So people who are born here, raised here, trying to run business here, are competing against other people who are new to the country, who are undercutting them. We've seen this over decades and decades and decades. Hence why you either go bust or you end up playing the same game, which is you've got to do what they do, which is cash in hand, don't pay any tax, be mobile, use your own home, don't have offices, don't employ people. And it's a catch-22.
Yeah, and they think, oh, it's all right. We'll just import some more labor, into the labor pool, if you will. But it simply doesn't work. Out of what then now has become known as the Boris wave, the 1.2 million was it that came over here in a single year when Boris was in charge. Only 15% of those people have actually got a job. The rest are just scrounging off the system. If you're going to come over here now and be a net contributor, you've got to earn about 45 grand a year to be a net contributor to this country. And I don't think there's many coming over here that are actually going to be net contributors. And as for these latest immigration figures, I don't believe them either. So yes, I suppose I'm calling the government liars, or the Office for National Statistics, whoever it is. But they said that the year December 22 to December 23, 860,000 people came into this country. That's legally. Then they're saying now, from December 23 to December 24, it's gone down to 431,000. I can accept it's gone down a bit, but it seems very convenient to me that it's basically 50% that it's come down by. And they've had to revise the previous government's figures from that period up by 100,000 just to make it that 50% margin. So these numbers are always projections. They're always estimations, if you will. They're never exact. They're never bang on. But I don't believe for a second that they've just managed to round it up perfectly and it's worked out at 50%. They're fixing the figures. They're not recording them in the same way. Something's going on. And Labour, of course, are trying to claim credit for it when it's got sod all to do with them, really. It was the Tories that stopped people bringing dependents over here that actually brought some of that down. Well, all we're seeing now is an increase in illegal immigration anyway. So people come over here and they actually get more benefits than they would if they came over here legally to work. And it costs less. In fact, it costs nothing.
Yeah, you just get a little dinghy across, get picked up a couple of miles off the coast by our taxi service. You get brought to the country, and then it seems like a gravy train, and it is a gravy train for them. People who say, I wouldn't do that for £40 a week in a free room. But yeah, you wouldn't, because you were born here and live here. But if you're born and live in the third world, that's a gravy train. 40 quid a week, free accommodation, free food, free services, free dentists, free NHS. This is like heaven. So of course they keep coming and keep coming. I got a text the other day off someone, not a text, it was on social media, of someone from France saying, we blame you, the British, for our immigration problem, because they all come to France trying to get over here. If you sorted yourselves out, most of them wouldn't be in France either.
It's right. It's absolutely right, isn't it? Because Poland don't let them in. Poland put the army on the border and say, don't even think about it. And they literally shoot them if they try and break into the country. So they don't get into Poland. Hungary don't allow people to come into their country either because they want to stay Hungarian, which is fair enough. Germany have stopped taking people now because they've let that many in. The crime rate is just unbelievable. 165 stabbings in a month. It's absolutely unbelievable. I'm not saying they're all committed by immigrants, but a big proportion were. And then, of course, when France say, well, France don't even give them a tent sometimes. If there's a tent there, they'll give them a tent to sleep in, but that's about it. And then they get told over here, yeah, you've got all these hotels and all that. And is it any wonder the French police just think, sod it, go. I don't want you in my country. Go and plunder Britain for all I care. It's no coincidence either, is it? That, you said it's a gravy train. Was he top? Was he second in the Sunday Times rich list. Guess who it was? Migrant hotel tycoon. What's his name? Graham King owns all these migrant hotels, making a fortune, made over £1 billion. Is it any wonder? And then you've got companies like this Serco and all that. People are making such huge sums of money out of this, and it's the taxpayer that's paying for it. And God only knows why the government are so happy. We've seen the figures we get revised for how much it's costing us, haven't we? They said it was about 5 billion. They're now saying it's 15 billion. It's actually triple. It's costing us triple what they said it was. Is it any wonder? Like, what the government are thinking by doing this, I honestly don't know. Because they're losing that money every single year.
They are.
You get a government full of human rights lawyers every year, don't you?
You do, but this has been going on for, at least a decade, and it's been ramping up over that time. And you wonder why politicians support it. Well, let's look at who's funding their campaigns to be politicians in the first place. There's billions being spent on this. So, if you run a catering company, well, you could be catering those hotels. Taxi firms, coach companies, private security firms, as well as the hotels, as well as private doctors, private dentists, as well as all the NGOs and all the charities are getting grants off governments for this. This is just one big money-making scheme for certain people and certain businesses, and they're throwing a little bit of that money back at the politicians for their campaigns, and it's bankrupting the country.
I don't know if you know or not, one of the top guys, I think he co-owns Serco, is actually Winston Churchill's grandson, Sir Nicholas Soames, and he was a Tory MP.
Yeah, he was.
And all of a sudden, he's got massive shares in Serco. All these people are coming over. I think he lost his seat, didn't he? Yeah. But all of a sudden, he's making absolute killing out of there anyway on these migrant hotels. It's an absolute con, isn't it? It's absolutely incredible. It really is.
It is. Right, before we go, let's go back to Keir Starmer. What's going to happen? Apart from Angela Rayner, is anybody manoeuvring to replace him? Andy Burnham keeps making waves, but doesn't seem to be doing anything. I'm beginning to think Andy Burnham might not even want the position anymore, which is surprising. But is he? He's a clever guy, or is he just waiting for the perfect opportunity? What about the West Streeting? Is anybody making any move? Because Starmer is weak.
Oh, he's incredibly weak. Yes, there's been people on manoeuvres. I mean, Reeves doesn't even bother now. She's such a laughing stock. She doesn't even go on manoeuvres now.
Yeah, she knows.
She's not got a prayer. Wes Streeting has been on manoeuvres. Andy Burnham's kept his gob shut. Then again, he's not even in Parliament, so he couldn't take over anyway, could he? If there's any truth in him taking over Graham Stringer, I'm sure he would have another run at the leadership. But then again, he's probably getting paid more than the Prime Minister to be the Mayor of Manchester. So maybe he just thinks, why bother? He's never going to lose his seat as Mayor of Manchester. He'll just stay there and earn a fortune. So if I was him, I'd live closer to home. Is he from Warrington or something like that?
Wigan.
So I'd just stay closer to home and earn a fortune being a Mayor of Manchester. Why not? But these people do have big egos, and maybe he will have a run at the leadership again. Who knows? Rayner's the only one making credible waves for me. She's the only one that's trying to keep her powder dry. She's distancing herself more and more from Starmer. She's making the odd voice against him. You look at her face at PMQs. She's sat behind him. He's sat there trying to rally the troops, if you will. The benches are becoming, if you look at it's always a telltale sign that you look at the back benches and they're not cheering him. They're not, getting on Starmer's side. They're just sat there like slumped in their seats thinking, God. And Rayner's sat there scowling at him. She's the only one making credible moves. Anybody that seems to be credible for the leadership or could have a run at it, Starmer sends them out to make some sort of press statement. And it's happened to nearly every single one of them now. If you look at it, he's had Wes Streeting defending the winter fuel cuts, saying there'll be no U-turn. Then they sent Wes Streeting out to say, well, we might have made a mistake. Then they came out and said, we're not going to U-turn again. And now they have U-turned, so he looks like an absolute tosser. They've had Jess Phillips out there saying we're not bothered about children that have been raped. They've had Liz Kendall, who was the one that was sent out there to take away the winter fuel payment in the first place, and now they're having to roll back on that. So what he's done is, it's always women, by the way, apart from Streeting, that are used as these human shields for him. He discredits them, and they're happy to take it because they get the ministerial salaries and the ministerial cars, and they're happy to take the bullets for him because none of them ever deserved a cabinet position and probably will never get one again. but he's made it so none of them look very credible, and they all look pretty stupid. And then they're saying all the time, "Where's Streeting sent out again? NHS waiting lists are coming down." Then we find out in March they went up by 19,000. Everything's a lie. And Starmer is discrediting everyone around him, and that's why Rayner's staying away. She fell for it the first time when she got the housing brief. She fell for it, and I said he's making a right knob of her here, and he's doing it on purpose. She's never going to get 1.5 million homes built in 5 years, and they haven't even started yet. So God knows what they're going to do. But Rayner's looks like she's had enough of being made a tosser of by Keir Starmer to me. But she's the only one. She's not credible. She won't win a general election, but she could win a leadership contest in Labour against Starmer, certainly. In fact, I think I'd have a shot when I'd beat Starmer in the leadership contest.
Right, I want to make you go out on a limb here now. Before we go, when do you think Starmer's going to fall?
I have always said he wouldn't see 2026 as PM. I honestly, there's that big story going around at the moment that I'm trying not to talk about too much with the male models.
Yeah, Eastern European young male prostitutes.
Yeah, whatever they are. If that blows up, and if it's true what the Sun has, these recordings and photos, it goes very, very soon. If we're talking purely politics, then conference season is a possibility. I think it's a possibility, but I think it's actually more likely, touching on that story then, that his private life is going to bring him down faster than an EMP can.
Right. Well, the day that happens, the hour that happens, let's drop each other a line. We'll jump on this and we'll dissect that, because I can't see. I mean, the backbenchers now, Labour MPs and Labour councillors, all must be going, he's the problem. You know, economy's crap, we're crap, everyone's crap, but he's the most crap. He doesn't have a personality, can't speak. Surely they're going, let's just replace him and see what happens. I can't see him lasting much longer.
No, he is undoubtedly the problem, and he's a very, very dislikable person. You wouldn't want to get trapped in a lift with him, would you? You would want to go to a pub with him and sit down and have a chat. He was in a little the other day, and I've never seen somebody so uncomfortable around normal people, because he doesn't know any. He's come from a life of privilege, just tries to deny it, but he's come from a life of a lot of privilege. And he talks absolute rubbish when he says about working people, talks about working people all the time. He doesn't know what working people are. He's a con artist. And I'm afraid he's a con artist with zero personality. At least, Boris, everyone knows Boris has got money, but at least he could connect with people. Farage is a wealthy man in his own right. He can connect with people. Rupert Law, lots of them can. There are some quite good communicators, even if they do talk absolute rubbish sometimes. But he has got such bad communication skills, and it makes him like I said, a dislikable person. He's an automaton. He's a robot. If you need a rule book or a judge to tell you what a woman is for clarification, then I'm afraid you haven't got the brains you were born with, and that's Starmer.
Let's end there. I think you're right. That is Starmer. Ash, thanks for coming along, and let's do this again soon.
Yeah, cheers, Nick. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.